So what we do, we take our 45 inches of our 12mm round bar, or half-inch round bar. Then we mark the centre, which is 22.5 inches. And then we want to go 2 3/4 inches either side of that mark, or 70mm. So I mark that at 19 3/4 inches. And then you want to centre pop the 19 3/4, the off centre one. So we take the off centre one and we centre dot it. So you leave a mark. So this is our first initial bend. So you're going to want to find your centre mark. If you rub on your steel, the scale will go in the hole. Place it in your Pritchell hole, bend it over. Just enough so you can complete the bend. So your centre mark is in the middle. Keep it as straight as you can, then back in the fire. And then all you want to do is squeeze this up and tidy this up. So you don't want to be forging this, guys. You just want to be closing it up, that's all. So gentle taps. You're not trying to forge it square, you're not trying to forge it rectangular. Just closing it up, keeping it straight. So once you've got this closed up and this gap has disappeared, then you're ready for the next stage. So now I'm going to take 100mm or 3 7/8 from the end, and I'm going to bend it over. I want a 90-degree bend. Again, not forging this. Just bending it. Bend it back on itself. If it gets too cold like this, get it hot again. So I've taken another heat because it's easier. And then we're just going to squeeze it together. Trying to make a square. Work both sides. So I'm not forging it hard. I'm just squeezing it together. Now this should fit into your hardy hole. If it doesn't, then forge it down slightly, not loads but slightly, until it fits. And it's going to be quite a tight fit because it's hot and and obviously the metal expands when it's hot, so as it cools it shrink and then should go in. So I'll forge it down slightly. I work both sides, then squeeze it together again. Try it in your hardy hole. So it will fit. I'm going to take it down a little bit more. Squeeze it together again, keep it straight. So now she fits. I was a little bit too loose, so I forged it down a little bit too much. So it shows how much you shouldn't really forge it down. But that shouldn't be a problem. It might be a little bit loose, but we can deal with that. So this is important. Short face onto the face of the anvil. Long one over the hill. So you bend it over. Tap it down. Long one over the hill. Tap it down. So to take it out, just hit underneath the anvil and you'll hit the legs. So this is what we end up with. Obviously this goes into the hardy hole, your 90-degree bends. You've got one long length, one short length. So on the long length, what we're going to do is we're going to measure 1 inch, make a mark, and then we're going to measure 5 inches from that mark and make another mark. And what this 5 inches will be is for the bend. It's for the spring part. So I'll measure 1 inch. Or 25 millimeters. Then I'll go 5 inches. 5 inches from that mark. Or about 130 mil. So we're going to center mark it. So I'm going to come to the near side of the anvil on a nice radius with the peg facing downwards on my mark, and I'm going to set it down. Half on, half off blows. And before the heat goes, I'm going to turn it. I'm going to go to the other side of the anvil. Find my mark. And do exactly the same. you've got one set down that way, and then the other set down the opposite way. And then what we're going to do, we're going to come in here, get this piece hot, and we're going to flatten it down to about 6mm thick, to about 1/4 inch thick, to about 3/4 of an inch wide, or 16mm wide, and this will give us a spring. So I'll take another heat, and we'll bish bash bosh that out. I'll give it a straighten before I put it back in. So we got the heat, let's go for it. I'm going to turn it over to do the other side. So it's about 1/4 inch thick now. And when you're forging like this, if you've got anything stuck up like that, just watch your hands. And if you choke the hammer handle, really watch your hands. Because if you come down on this, on the top of this, you're going to burn yourself. And it's not nice. So I'll straighten this now before I put it back in the fire. And then I'll work the edges and then get it to exactly the right size I need. So now you've got the thickness, you can tidy out your edges. Just work both sides. And planish the tops. The more consistent thickness you can keep it, the better. That way the spring will work a lot better. And straighten it all up. So this is what we have before we go to the next stage. So one side has nothing done to it. Then you got your peg in the middle. And you got an inch from the peg to the start of your spring. And then the spring was 5 inches, and that's been forged out to 6mm thick by about 16 to 20mm wide. And then one transition goes that way, and the other transition goes the other way. And now what we'll do is we'll bend this to a 90 degrees, and then we'll make a real sharp corner. So it's a 90-degree corner, and then you'll see where that comes into play in a minute. So with the peg facing down, come to the edge of the anvil. I've quenched this off. It doesn't fit because of my stand. So I'm going to use the table of the horn, the cutting table. I'll take it to the vise to finish it off because I can't fit it on. you see where we're going with this. Basically this needs to sit flat and 90 degrees. So another way of doing it is putting it on the anvil and tapping the top of the bar. I'll show you now. So I've quenched the bar, now I'm going to tap the top of it. It's not the easiest way of doing it, so that's one way of doing it, and then I'll show you the other way now. So this is the other way. So this is what we've ended up with. It's 90 degrees, but it's going the other way. So now the next heat, we've got to heat this bit of the bar up, and then bend. You can either bend it round the pipe, or you can bend it round the horn. I'm going to do the horn because I don't have a pipe that's the right size, and it's good to practice anyway. And if you've got a real small forge, you're going to struggle with this, like I've got a real small forge. So I'll struggle, but I'll figure out how to get it in there to heat this part up, and then I'll bend it round on itself so that I can at least get it back into the forge a little bit easier. So this is the one thing I hate about gas forges, is you got to get it through a door, or through a gap, or through a small little opening, whereas a solid fuel forge you can just lay it on the top, you get the heat wherever you want it. But this way I've got to open the door, which I really hate doing, because it uses so much gas and it burns the outside of the forge. So what I'm going to do is just get a little bit of heat on it, just to bend it around enough so I can fold it on itself, and then work it over the horn. And this is what I hate about gas forges. Absolutely hate it. So I'm going to bend it round just so I can get it in the forge a lot easier. We'll tidy it up in a minute. So you sort of see the shape where we get into. So this is a little bit easier now. I can actually put it into my forge. And this is why I really want a solid fuel forge. I hate gas. So now we figured this out, we're going to go and forge the loop. You want to keep it nice, smooth and round. What I did there because I want that bend to be 90 degrees. Putting it on there, I'm turning it slightly so I can get my hammer in. And that'll bend it back up. And I could do the same on the face. And that's to keep this bar straight. So this bar is kicking up. So I'm going to put it on the horn and just bend it over slightly. Now we're going to have a little play around and get this to exactly where we want it. Again, I'm going to straighten this bar. Start bringing the top bar down, and I might even push it in. Now at this stage my peg is starting to open up, so while I've got heat in it, I'm just going to squeeze it together. No forging, just squeezing it together. So now you want this corner and also this corner to be, you want this level, so when it sits in your hardy hole it's nice and level, you don't have to mess around with it. So now in that final heat I'm just truing up, getting everything flat, getting everything symmetrical as much as I can. And then the next heat is to set it in the anvil and sort everything out. So what I'm going to do now, put it in the anvil, put it in the hardy, get everything in line as best as I can. Small little taps, you only want it to move a little bit. It's going to move when it's hot, so take it out. And now I'm very careful with this, so now I'm just flattening it. Squeeze these up, and if you want this to open up, work it on the horn. All I like to do is keep this end closed. See, this needs straightening. I'm going to do that when it's cold, because if I do it now I'm going to mess all this up. What I will do is keep them in line. You can keep this with the protruding end of the peg upwards. work then. You can even put a flatter on it. Keep everything in line if you wanted to. So all I'm doing is looking down the line like this, making sure everything's basically in line. And if it's not, correct it. If it is, leave it. And I'm going to say that's pretty good for me. It's hard to explain what I'm doing now because it's just your intuition. Put it in a hardy hole again. This is the last straightening now. And that I'm going to leave. So what I'll do is I'll just heat this up now and I'll give it a wire brush. So I'm going to give this a wire brush. As this is not a finished product, that needs to be well cleaned. I'm not going to go mental with it. Can do if you want, but I'm not. Wire wheel it after if you want. Put on a buffing wheel. To be honest, I'm not fussed. It is as is. Flatten this out again and knock a lot of the scale off. So now this with Fuller, anything wider than a quarter, 3/4 of an inch to 1/4 of an inch. So that's why you leave it the V. If you had it parallel, then you'd only be limited to what you can do with the spring, whereas that would be resting on it. I'll show you how it works in a minute anyway. And if it's really loose in your hardy hole, all you have to do is open up your peg and it'll wedge itself in. But other than that, guys, that's finished for me. That's basically it. So I'll leave it in his new home to cool down. I'm not going to quench it. I'm just going to leave it, let it cool naturally. I'm not 100% sure if that's the right thing to do, but it's what I'm doing. Like any of my videos, don't take it as gospel. Do your own thing. Research. So now we've forged it out, what I'll do is I'll heat up the fullers, so as hot as I can possibly get it, and then quench it in water. put it back in the forge and repeat 3 times. Oing, 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 oing. So that's what it's for, guys. It's to fuller steel. I'll give you a nice close up of this in a minute.